If you're thinking about making the move to Elk Grove, California in the Sacramento metro, watch this video. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. We're bringing out the maps. We're talking price points, locations, schools. Let's get into the video right now. Now, before we get started, just so you guys know, Aaron is a mortgage broker in our area. I always say go local. He's an awesome guy. Not only that, he's one of the top, if not the top, mortgage broker in the area. So definitely give him a shot if you're thinking about making the move to the Sacramento area. My name is Mark McDonough, and I am a realtor in the area. I run one of the top real estate teams in the area. And if you're looking to move in, if you're looking to sell your property in the area, we kind of do it all. And we cover Sacramento County, Placer County, El Dorado Hills area, West Sacramento. And we'd love to work with you. Okay, let's jump into Elk Grove. Aaron, let's talk first, the big one. We're going to go over the pros and cons. We'll hit the pros first. Location. Okay. What do you think of Elk Grove's location?
For, a lot of people in the region, like over a fifth, they work for the state of California, and then like another, third or so work for companies that are tied to the state. And so if you're in Elk Grove, getting to work for a lot of people is really easy. Especially, when you get to use the I-5 corridor to get into downtown. So from a location standpoint, I do think that it's got a lot of pluses compared to some of the other spots. What do you think on that?
Well, I think one is a lot of people love the area, love the location because of close to the Bay Area. Now, relatively close, right? Comparatively in the Sacramento area, it's the southernmost kind of part of the Sacramento area. And based on what I know, people have been getting to like San Jose in about an hour and 25 minutes, of course, traffic and everything too. So a lot of people still do the commute, maybe one day every couple of weeks. And Elk Grove tends to be that spot that they look at and they say, you know what? I like the idea that we're close to downtown. We get all the amenities Elk Grove has to offer, and we're still a good shot to the Bay Area for that maybe 1 or 2 days we need to go in every single month. Sure. Some people might look at Folsom, El Dorado Hills. You got to tack on maybe another, 35, 40 minutes. And Elk Grove definitely is something that's kind of doable. So as far as the Bay Area traffic, as far as people coming in from the Bay, you know how it is. I mean, like Zoom was good last year. Now everyone's going back, and it's just one of those things. Those people, when they're moving out of their like area where their job is or where the company is, they just want to feel like they have a direct route in there. And with the train station that's going to be popping its head up in 2025, the location for the Bay is just, as far as anywhere in Sacramento area, it's pretty awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about the Bay Area connection, but it's definitely a lot more convenient, especially for those that are like zipping through Brentwood or Stockton or any of like the little shortcuts to get on over here. The Elk Grove area is great.
Well, okay, let's swing into number 2, location in the Sacramento area as well too.
Yeah.
Like you said, what do you think about Elk Grove to downtown?
Elk Grove to downtown is way easier than pretty much most of the other areas, other than maybe like Natomas. The commute, like going from Roseville, for instance, into downtown Sacramento. Oh my gosh, that's an arduous process. Same thing with like, from Folsom or El Dorado Hills, you're like just crawling up the 50. And I don't know, my personal experience has always been that it takes just way longer to get from those sides of town into the downtown corridor versus just, zipping up the I-5.
Well, yeah, here you got the 5 over here. You got what it is, a 99 over here.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden you have like areas like that can connect you all the way over to like, Rancho and everything too. So then you got a bunch of side roads, the Vineyard area. You got like what's called Bradshaw. So you have areas to go. Now, are they getting more, condensed, and is the traffic getting worse there with all the new homes being built at Elk Grove? Yeah. But at least you have those options to get from point A to point B. So for me, as far as Elk Grove, downtown, I like it. I like it also if we end up doing the connector between Elk Grove and El Dorado Hills on White Rock. That would be fantastic. But I think as far as location-wise, if someone's kind of like, wants to be somewhere that's close to downtown, you're still striking distance towards a bunch of stuff in that area. Elk Grove's got wineries, you're still pretty close to kind of everything. But like a lot of people who don't know Elk Grove, just understand that like this is a map of the Sacramento area, and you have the 3 big zip codes, but Elk Grove is big. It's spread out. I kid you not, 5 o'clock, if you're thinking about going from like Sheldon all the way to maybe like the Laguna area, like 30 minutes? It's not at least. So Location wise, I think I like it for the Sacramento downtown vibe. I think it's, and like and it's being built up. And so I like the location for it. I think also one thing too with location is Elk Grove has land. And that's why we're seeing so many of these new home builders pop into Elk Grove. It's like because we have land and because we can kind of create like Elk Grove the way a smart way to create like a city, right? Like a lot of these areas, are kind of landlocked, so there's just a maze to get to them. I think Elk Grove, like the location wise, the way it's being built out, I think it's a smarter kind of like traffic pattern. I mean, yeah, there's Bradshaw, which is a bear and everything too, but I think that at the end of the day, Elk Grove is being designed out to be a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I'm sure we've got some of these in our pros, but I mean, when I was growing up in Elk Grove, there wasn't really much out in Elk Grove. We didn't have the 95757 zip code didn't exist, and there were only 2 high schools, and like we had to leave Elk Grove to get to a lot of resources. Like there weren't really great restaurants or things to do. It was just basically we played sports and did stuff that you do out in the country. It wasn't, the way that Elk Grove is now, short of like, really like high-end shopping that you'd find at like the Galleria or the Palladio or something like that. I mean, Elk Grove kind of has all the other resources available. So, I mean, really, like you don't need to leave Elk Grove for much these days, except maybe if you work downtown or in the Bay or something like that. So, even though it's grown so much and it can take a while to get from one side of town to the other, you shouldn't have to be, doing that as your daily thing.
Now, I mean, you got a new Macy's that was put in a couple weeks ago, Mendocino Farms, the Costco situation over there too, the Sky, I think Sky River Casino. So the Sacramento Zoo is going to be moved over there, and we just got a lot of stuff happening. And also, here's another thing too, love it or hate it, you got all these builders. Here are the builders currently building in the Elk Grove area, and we're talking maybe about combined, maybe somewhere around around 25 to 30,000 houses, because they have been building prior to this as well too. So what you're going to know is that each one of these communities is charging anywhere between 350 to 450 Mellorews. I know no one likes Mellorews, but when you think about all that money going and being spent into the infrastructure, because that's what Mellorews does, parks, schools, police departments, all that stuff too. It might look a little bit like a Mad Max movie right now, but with all those houses, all that Mellorews being pumped into Elk Grove, I mean, it's going to be one of those spots, that there's going to be some great parks, great things to do. Like Aaron said, because of all these houses, and understand this as well too, for growth potential, if you're going to be someone who's maybe like a retailer, like a Nordstrom's or like someone, and you're saying to yourself, we want to put in a store, right? We want it to be somewhere where there's a lot of houses. Where are you going to put them? Right there in Elk Grove. So understand that, like, I think it will be. You'll see a lot of commercial. You'll see a lot of maybe another big, huge mall over there, because they're going to say, well, there's like 30,000 new people that just moved into Elk Grove. It's also close to downtown. Let's throw in some money and let's get them some stores and let's get them shopping. So for me, I like that. Growth potential for me, another huge, huge thing of Elk Grove. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. There's tons of growth potential.
Now let's talk pricing. Pricing for me is, and I think honestly for pricing, it's a good pro, because if you look at areas like Folsom, you look at areas like El Dorado Hills, Rockland, I mean, we're talking maybe $100,000 to $200,000 more than you'd probably spend in Elk Grove. So Elk Grove is relatively still, it's still doable. Do you know what I mean? To a lot of people, it's still doable where you want the schools, you want the community, you want the access to downtown, all that stuff too. What do you think of that, especially as someone who's grown up in Elk Grove or, OG?
Well, so when we look at home prices, I still feel like the affordability factor, especially if you're a family and schools are really important to you, and also like kid activities are really important to you, that's something that we haven't really touched on yet. But like in Elk Grove, I would definitely put in the pros that there are just a never-ending amount of sports and outdoor kind of activities, lots of parks, all that stuff. For the kids. And when you look at other areas in the region that kind of have similar, amenities, school ratings, those kinds of things, they cost significantly more. So in terms of like the affordability factor for families, I definitely think that Elk Grove, is a top contender for sure.
I mean, I'm looking at some of these houses, and I mean, seriously, I look at something like this, like it's like, 5-bedroom house and everything too. And in Folsom, that's going to be like 1-2. Rockland, the same thing. So I think Elk Grove is on I think that you're going to see appreciation in Elk Grove. I think the more it grows and develops, you're going to see house prices go up and everything too. And I think right now, like, you can still get something in Elk Grove for maybe like, 550, 600. Yes, I know prices have increased in the last few years, but I still think Elk Grove's got a lot of breathing room and room, so for a lot of people, like I said, a lot of times, other than buying a great house in a great community, that vibe, all that things that you want and your kids want, you also have to understand in the day and age we live in, like that's your asset. That's your like stock portfolio for the most part. So you kind of want to be in an area where you see the growth potential and like, and you could say to yourself, well, okay, look, is this something that in the future I'm putting my money somewhere that makes sense? And with all the building, all the growth, all the stuff, I mean, for me, the price point comparatively towards the growth potential, it just makes sense, But okay, enough about like the dollars and cents stuff. Let's talk about the community vibe, like Aaron said, like sports and everything. What are some of the things you love about Elk Grove? What are the things that you see in Elk Grove where you say people would love that?
Well, it's you kind of have like that like hometown feeling going on out there. There's tons and tons of families all over the place. There's kids everywhere. And it shows just if you look at the numbers of schools and everything. I had mentioned like when I was growing up in Elk Grove, we had two schools. There was Elk Grove and Laguna. Those are still there, of course, but I believe that there's also 14 in addition, or maybe 15 in addition. I mean, there's like 16 or 17 high schools. It's insane how much, it's grown in terms of families and all that stuff. Pick your poison and it's available essentially. And there's a lot of it. So, I do feel like for the families out there that are looking to find a place that's got that good hometown feel with like a lot of options, it's hard to beat what Elk Grove's got, especially at that price point.
Oh, 100%. And the land and everything too makes it nice to be able to like build parks and all that stuff too. And if you guys don't know it, Sacramento and Elk Grove definitely is one of those spots too. We love our soccer, we love our sports, but the community vibe too. I mean, you got like what's called movie nights in the park. A lot of the communities have their kind of niche kind of things that they do as well too. So if you're looking for community vibe, like whether you're in the 624, 757, 758, which are the bigger zip codes in Elk Grove, like this is kind of what you get. Our buddy Sabo moved into the 624, and he knows all the neighbors, and they're all friendly, and they get together. They do the fire pit, the barbecues, the hanging out. He's got an amazing orchard out there as well too. So, I think a community vibe was lost a little bit in the Bay Area. When I grew up there, there's a little bit more of a community vibe. Elk Grove definitely is an area that the community vibe is very strong. And you'll see it in some of the signs too, community friendly and everything too. You got a strong vibe of the farm to fork stuff, farm to table stuff as well too. So if you're somewhere and you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm moving my family. I just want to make sure the kids are good, that it's an atmosphere that I feel like they're going to grow up in the right direction. I like Elk Grove for that. I really, really 100% do. I think it's a spot that for me, I think I see people who move in their family, and then they move in their brother's family, they move in their sister's family, their friend's family, and people just flock to Elk Grove, and they just love it. So I think for you guys out there, if you're thinking maybe Elk Grove should be the spot, of course, take a look at it. But I'd say if you're looking for that community vibe, the area that maybe mom and dad might follow you up there, Elk Grove definitely kind of is one of those spots in the Sacramento area that definitely fills that does that for people. Okay. Now let's flip. We've talked all the good stuff. Let's talk about the kind of like the cons of Elk Grove too, because there's always pros, there's always cons. One of the cons for me of Elk Grove was the fact that because we have so much new home building right now, like mentioned, there's a lot of tract homes out there. There's a lot of tract homes because we got a lot of building. We got Lennar even was out there, Taylor and everything too, and they've been building for a while. So a lot of people, when I bring them up there, they're just like, everything kind of looks. There's not a lot of custom out there. Not unless you go to like the 624 and you're paying like $1 million plus for a house. What do you think as far as that goes, Aaron?
Because of there was nothing out there. It was literally just cow pastures, right? And then all of a sudden you've got full blown, master plan communities with schools and, fire and police and the whole nine yards. And so that's what kind of happens with that kind of development, is you got just a bunch of builders that are cranking out houses. I will say though that it doesn't look so much the same as like maybe like some neighborhoods like Gold River or some of the other ones where they've got some really strong HOAs, like in Natoma Station and Folsom, where like every single house looks the exact same, basically same color, all that stuff. But that's also, one of the pluses in terms of, like you mentioned, like when you're looking at real estate, one of the factors, although you're considering, your family has to like it and live there and, it's got to fit your life. It's also, technically an investment. And, when you look at real estate from an investment side of things, it's, what's the potential of growth, which really just comes down to supply demand. How many people are going to really want to live out there and eat up all that supply and create that demand? When you look at Elk Grove, it's basically, you've got all that land that's wedged between 99 on the east and I-5 on the west. And there's basically like a wildlife preserve on the west side of I-5. So they can't build anything over there. Plus there's some floodplains. But there's just these huge swaths of land that the builders have already been investing in. And, basically we're slowly building south, and at some point, they'll run out of space, but they got a long ways to go before they hit the next town is Galt. And so they got a long ways to grow, basically. And so whether you're buying in the 624 or the 757 or wherever, I think that one of the pros, it's a con and a pro. The con is that, like you like to joke, it's like Mad Max at times. There's a whole lot of building going on, and they're throwing up a ton of track houses, but they're feeding a demand, which is going to help prices increase over time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I mean, you know, new homes good and bad. You know what I mean? New homes are
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, I think people need them just for the most part because we are short of housing and there's a lot of demand for Elk Grove. So, but I do think also some of the plans aren't as the latest things that I'm seeing, they aren't as kind of tracty as they were before. I think you see stuff like the Drakes and the Sawyers that you can do a lot of cost customizations. I think one of the things about Elk Grove though too is when you see a lot of tract homes, you see a lot of density. You know what I mean? Like the houses are kind of closer together. I wish they'd space them out a little bit too. But like I said, I mean, these are cons, but at the same time, I mean, they're nitpicky cons to say the least.
Sure.
I mean, Elk Grove for me, I look at it and I'm like, it's just hard to kind of, I mean, for the price point, for the schools, for the location, it's just hard to say anything really that negative about Elk Grove. You know what I mean? And I think it's still it's in its infancy as far as growth goes. Now another negative thing will be probably shopping, but we hit that before. Shopping is just developing out there. Like once it gets itself a couple big malls, some additional stores, I think all of a sudden that's going to be like a con that's going to go away relatively soon. I'd say within 3 years that's going to be something that's going to be like we won't even be able to nitpick about that too. But I will say the biggest con about Elk Grove, and this is absolutely huge, and this has been one of those things, when someone calls us up and goes, we're looking for Elk Grove, we're looking for something for $600,000, what do you think? Good market, bad market. Elk Grove is always, in my opinion, maybe not the highest price point, but the most competitive market. I mean, people love the 757, 758. I mean, it's just competitiveness.
I do think that, when you look at it from like a family standpoint of demand of like, people wanting to be in a family community or like where there's good schools or, things for kids, that kind of thing. Elk Grove's always been really high in demand. The big difference though is that, like when I lived there, living out there was much more of a like a convenience sacrifice because you were so far away from, well, not far away. I mean, now we're just nitpicking, but 20 minutes away from, Sacramento resources. Whereas now, like you were just saying, it's the shopping is up and coming. Unless like you need, a Louis Vuitton or, something like that. A lot of the shopping centers that have, popped up all over the place, can really kind of check off a lot of the needs. Plus there's Costco. I mean, you can pretty much get everything you need at Costco in my world, but they got a lot of options there. So I do think that although shopping is definitely like on the downside of things as far as a con goes, there's a lot of room for improvement. And as more people move out there, the demand's going to grow, and eventually, the big boys will come out and set up shop out there. We almost had a mall out there. It was just the timing was terrible. It was like one of those, investments that the developer did like at the height of the the boom / crash. If they would have, been a few years earlier, we'd probably have a full blown mall out there at this point. But it's, timing's everything, right?
Oh yeah, but like I said before, I think as far as the whole like shopping stuff, I think within about 3 years that's going to be remedied. And I think as far as like the biggest thing I can tell anyone out there, if you're looking for new homes, there is some competition, but not as much. Resale is where the competition is. It's a harder market. People love the resale stuff too. But I would say if you guys are looking out there, like I said, Aaron is an amazing mortgage broker, so I'd reach out to him. And not only that, he's OG Elk Grove, so he can give you a little inside scoop. And like I said, guys, I would say competition is fierce. Select your real estate team very, very well, because you need someone who's going to go out there and a team that's going to go out there and fight for you. We'd love to be that team. Again, guys, this is Mark and Aaron on a Monday talking pros and cons in Elk Grove. Aaron, any parting words?
Hey, we'll see you in Elk Grove.
Okay, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video on Elk Grove, California. If you want more Elk Grove, click on this video right here. It is one of the top videos that we've ever done on Elk Grove, California. And if you're thinking about making the move there, you guys got to watch that video.